Hello everyone, my name is Seth, and today I'm going to give you my review of Freddy vs. Jason. So we are continuing our kind of spooky Halloween theme here in October, and we are continuing it with Freddy vs. Jason. I think this lined up perfectly because as you're seeing this today, it is Friday the 13th in October, and this year is the 20th anniversary of this film. But before I go any farther, go ahead and like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. So the actual making of this film was a long time coming. They had been trying to get this in the works since like the late 80s, and it came out finally in 2003. This film had 18 drafts, over 12 different screenwriters. So this movie was in development for a really long time. And a lot of times when you hear stories like this, the final product doesn't end up being that great. It ends up kind of being a mess. And this kind of follows that trend. So the simple idea that kind of got this movie off the ground is that nobody remembers Freddy. And because of that, he's really weak. He's lost his power. So he resurrects Jason to go and do what he does in hopes to kind of get his name back out there and gain power again. And eventually, of course, he loses control of Jason and they come head to head. It's a good idea for a story starting out, but they really didn't go much further than that. They just really scratched the surface. I would have loved to see a lot more depth to the story and to the characters, really. Speaking of the characters, these characters were awful. Just straight up terrible. None of these characters were likable. The dialogue for these characters was terrible. And I really don't think any of the performances were that good either. These characters were just so shallow and really annoying. And I understand it's a slasher film. I understand a lot of these characters are here just to kind of be killed off. But you can make us care about these characters. I mean, other films have done it. And also, speaking of the writing, like I mentioned, the dialogue for all of these characters is really bad. And another idea that they had here was that Jason was afraid of water, which if you know anything about the other Friday the 13th movies, that's just dumb. Robert Englund came back as Freddy in this film, and he's good in this. Even though there are quite a few bad Nightmare on Elm Street movies, he's at least good in them. And I also think it's kind of a shame that he never really got any more substantial roles past Freddy and Nightmare on Elm Street, because I think he's really quite a good actor. I really would have loved to see him in different kind of roles in different genres. And as far as Jason, I think the casting there is interesting, because when you think of Jason, most people will think of Kane Hodder's version. But Kane Hodder did not get to play Jason in this film, even though beforehand he was very vocal about wanting this film to happen. Apparently, the production here didn't really have much involvement with Sean S. Cunningham, who was one of the creators and one of the original producers with Friday the 13th. And he wanted Kane Hodder to be in it, and they decided to go a different way. They recasted Kane Hodder here with Ken Kersinger, and he did a good job. It's different than Kane Hodder's version, but I think he did a good job of kind of doing his own style of Jason, and you can still tell, like, it's Jason, it's just not Kane Hodder's version. But I do hate it for Hodder because, like I said, he was just so enthusiastic about this character, and he gave really good performances. Although he was in some bad Friday the 13th movies, he really wanted to be in this. He really wanted this film to happen, and unfortunately he just didn't get this opportunity. Ronnie Yu was the director for this film, and he apparently didn't really have strong connections to either one of these characters, but he kind of wanted this to feel like a WWE wrestling match. And I think for the most part, he succeeded in that goal of his. All of the Freddy and Jason fights were well done. They were over the top, and I would say it's over the top in a good way. He definitely gave the fans what they wanted in terms of Freddy and Jason going head to head, and they had multiple different fights throughout the film, and he wanted to make sure people could see what was going on. He used these long takes in these fights, and I think he accomplished his goal. And I think in a film like this that took so long to get off the ground, you want to see Freddy and Jason square off more than once, and they made that work here. Another thing I'll give them credit for is that there were some good Nightmare on Elm Street moments, and there were some good Friday the 13th moments. Even some of the characters do feel at place in a Friday the 13th movie, and then there's some that do feel at place in a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Both styles from these two franchises are here, and I definitely can appreciate that. There's also some really interesting things that he does with color here. He's not afraid to go relatively extreme with some of the color. Like there's some like scenes that are just about all green, red, blue, and it really pops. And it's interesting. They're really not afraid to be stylized with some of this film. But speaking of some of the stylization, they have some really weird, like low frame rate moments in this film, and I really do not like that. I hate it, really. I think it makes the film look cheap, and it just doesn't look good. It also makes it kind of feel like it's trapped in the early 2000s. It makes it feel like it's kind of in like a bad early 2000s music video. There's also quite a few visual effects in this film that don't work for me. I know, especially from behind the scenes, things that they said that they tried to do as much practically here as they could. Even when they knew they were going to be incorporating some CG, they still tried to do quite a bit practically. But some of the effects just really don't work. Some of them really are bad, especially when they're leaning on the CG. And I think it even looks bad for the time. It's not just bad looking back on it. I think it's some bad CG for the year 2003. I think if you're here just for the kills in a slasher film, you're just here to see Freddy and Jason go head to head, you're not really looking for anything else, I think you can walk away satisfied from this film. But for me, I want more from my films. I need some depth of character. Now, if this is a film that, pops up on TV during the Halloween season, October, right around there, I'm not going to flip the channel, but this isn't a film that I'm going to seek out. If you're looking for any kind of extra depth for these characters or for the story, you're not going to find it here, unfortunately. And as a whole, I can't say that this film was successful. They had some good moments here, but there's also plenty of bad moments here. And I really think that the bad in this film outweighs the good. I would say if you are a fan of either one of these franchises, you're a fan of horror, you're a fan of slasher movies, something like that, it's worth a watch. But I definitely can't go out and recommend it to everybody. Unfortunately, I just can't give this more than a 1.5 out of 5 stars. So that's it. That's my review of Freddy vs. Jason. Have you seen this? Let me know what you thought about it in the comment section below. I'd love to have a conversation with you about it. We're getting closer and closer to 100 subscribers. That's really exciting. If you have not subscribed yet, please consider doing so. It would absolutely make my day. Don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. You can follow me on social media anywhere at CinemaSeth. And I'll see you next time.